Welcome to the GSMC Pets Podcast, the show that caters to pet lovers of all kinds. We'll talk about pets on social media, pets doing amazing things, and how to take care of the pets in your life. Whether your pet is a dog, a cat, a llama, hamster, reptile, or something more exotic, you'll find educational and entertaining information on the GSMC Pets Podcast.
GSMC Pets Podcast, brought to you today by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Samantha Melvin, and we are going to be talking about Manxes. You know, the most adorable cat in the world. And we actually have our own little Manx I've mentioned before, Eisen. And he normally sits with me whenever I'm doing my recordings, but today he decided against it. Hopefully he'll pop on by and, say hi to me. But today we are going to be talking a ton about them. And for one thing, we're going to first talk about their personality, their history, their myths and lore, and also books that people have written about Manx cats. And then also talk about this unfortunate thing called Manx cat syndrome. But it'll all be saved because at the end I will talk to you about a cat cafe that I absolutely adore. I have a question for you guys. I don't anticipate, answers right now, but who knows what a Manx cat is? Now, next question. Who knows someone who has a Manx? Last question. Do you have a Manx? Because I do, and it's one of the best things in the world. We have a cat, and I've mentioned him a lot already. His name is Eisen, and he is probably the most wonderful cat in the world. And what really emphasizes his greatness is that he honestly has almost an entire personality based on a dog. So this is the great thing about Manx cats. Manxes, for the most part, they start acting like dogs more than cats. And when I mean that, let's think about what cats are. Cats can be aloof, they can be mean, they can be picky, they're very independent, they don't need approval. When they get upset with you, they will in a way kind of punish you in some way. Really depends on the cat. But dogs, on the other hand, they always want you to be happy, right? They don't want to disappoint you. They're social, and they can easily bond with other animals. And, they can even bond very easy with, cats, for instance. And that's the really great thing about it, right? And, in addition to that, they're playful, and they're happy, and there's a such thing as lapdogs, too. And you've seen the pictures and videos of Great Danes crawling up onto their, pet parents' lap and stuff. But, it's very easy to socialize these animals. And it's the same thing with a Manx cat. They are basically dog cats, and they're pretty fantastic. Now, when I want to tell you a story about just how Eisen and I had actually bonded, and it was very cute and also distressing at the same time. He had disappeared. He had escaped from our house when he was just a kitten, honestly, and he just was gone for over a week, and I was worried and scared that something happened to him. And I started during the nights, I started opening up his his food bowl and like taking it out and shaking it, making that, that rattling sound that food does to the little bowls. And, for the most part, it didn't work, and shame on me for, 16. I had no idea what I was doing. But I would, walk around in the dark, not recommended, by the way, and I would just shake this bowl and hope that Eisen would come out. And there was this one night after the rain, and Eisen showed up. Now, I didn't notice at first, but, I was rattling the bowl, and then I was like, oh, well, I should give up for the night. It might start raining again. And before I went inside, I heard this little mew, and I turned around, and I saw Eisen just kind of like racing up to me, and the poor thing was limping because it looked like he had gotten into a fight with a cat. And when I actually picked him up too, there was like a claw that was stuck to his back, so he had definitely gotten into a fight. But, aside from that, this cat was so happy to see me, and he just started, curling up on me, loving me, and, I felt very close to Eisen after that moment. And I have to admit, maybe his love for food is kind of based on that, because, whenever he escaped after that again, and, he'd reappear a few days later, he would be so excited to, come to the food, and he's still excited now about food. So I guess I trained my cat to come to the sound of food, I guess. But, it's something that's very interesting about cats in general. He still has that independence that cats do have, but his little personality, like, you can tell that there's some shame to it, and, that's something known for dogs, because cats really don't care if you care or if you don't care. Eisen does care, most of the time. But, like, this one time when we were trying to leash train him, like, this was another escape story. It was a harness that we got him that he didn't like. It didn't fit him quite right, and he started, like, rearing back, and the harness, like, just opened up for him. Like, the little clips didn't hold. So he ran off because he didn't like it, and my husband was actually making fun of him for that, for looking goofy in it. And, that's anthropomorphizing, but, he seemed really embarrassed by it, and just, it's something that I just kind of adore about him. Like, this cat has shame. But, I had mentioned that I tried to toilet train Eisen, and then I stopped after doing some research, but we had actually started leash training Eisen as well. But this goes back to his independence. Like, he's very difficult with it. And at this point, this cat is 13 years old. He probably is starting to get set in his ways, but he does accept boundaries that you set for him. And, he's just kind of a free spirit at this point. Like, he gets away with almost everything because, well, he's my husband's absolute best friend, and you can't get around that. And, he will sometimes get onto the counters, and he would be, chomping on some wires, and, we'd get him away from that, but any single thing that he could put in his mouth, he would put in his mouth. But anyway, like, to kind of deter the behavior, you need to start playing with your cat more. Cats need exercise. I don't care if, your cat seems to be sleeping all the time. There needs to be exercise in it, or else there's going to be pent-up energy, and they'll get irritable, and they'll start destroying things, all that kind of stuff. Same thing goes with Manx cats. But have you ever seen a Manx cat? Probably not. So I'll go ahead and describe it to you. So Manx cats actually have basically the same image of a cat, of course, but the back legs are actually a little bit higher than the front legs. And it kind of makes them look like they have like bunny rabbit legs in the back. And as for the tail, like, people generally call them the tailless cat, but that's not true. They actually have different lengths of the tail. And, there's a stumpy, there's a rumpy, and also a riser. So depending on how long that tail is, then, well, that's what you would call it. Eisen is a riser. He has like a piece of vertebrae that sticks out, but it looks like he virtually has no tail. But, that's okay. Whenever you see him get happy, you can see the fur kind of rise up. Like a, not really sure how to describe it, but, you'll know it when you see it. But I want to get to talking now about the history of Manxes. And when I say the history of Manxes, I'm not going to bore you to death about, the facts and the figures and what else about the cat. I'm going to talk to you primarily about, well, let's see. I guess, what part of history are they most known for? How did they get their name, Manx, and all that kind of stuff. And all of that's so exciting to me. I mean, here's the thing. My husband, he typically does not listen to podcasts that are exceptionally long, but he asked me flat out when he heard I was going to talk about Manxes that he wanted to listen to this podcast. So I'm super excited about this. But anyway, he knows a little bit about the history, but I've done a little more research than he has lately. So I get to teach my husband more about Manxes, and that's super exciting. Anyway, so we are going to be talking about the history of Manxes after the commercial.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
And we are back from our little break, and we were originally talking about how essentially the Manx was the dog cat of the species, and that's pretty cool actually. Different interesting personalities and just kind of like a great social presence, all that kind of stuff. And, the major thing that defines them is how circular they are. I don't know if I mentioned that, but you can apparently draw a Manx in just circles. And I want to try that, actually. But we are now going to talk about the Manx and its history. So I just kind of want to get one little thing in. So the Manx is, fantastically popular in Great Britain. And that's mostly because, well, they were kind of found in the Isle of Man, which is very close to Great Britain. But essentially they have 4 types of commemorative coins for the Manx, and then also like a stamp for the Manx too. So I apparently missed out on that when I went to London one year, and I guess I'm going to try to find that the next time if we could ever get there in the future. But like those kind of things, like it shows, that this Manx has a good history with Great Britain, and I'd love to, get my hands on the actual stamp. Now, as I said, they came from the Isle of Man in the Irish Sea, and it's a very ancient breed. It's been around for a really long time, but it took a while for it to truly be recognized as a viable breed that different organizations can label it in cat shows. Which, okay, whatever. I mean, I guess that's enough recognition for a cat to be like, oh, you were on the cat show and you are, you're going to be judged. But, like, Manx cats have been exhibited in cat shows, and they were eventually, like, given a distinct breed, and that was around, like, the 1800s. But during that time period, few shows really had a Manx division, and most of the time when they were just kind of in a competition without that division, they would be placed under the label of any other variety class. So it was very disappointing, I imagine, for many people that were starting to, take in these cats or breed them. But eventually this pet breeding individual, who was also a showing expert, Charles Henry Lane, like, he made sure to, publish his own book that set breed standard of the Manx, and that was written in 1903, Rabbits, Cats, and Cavies. And, in addition to this, he owned his own Manx cat, too. It was a prize-winning white rumpy Manx named Lord Duke. And this white Manxes are actually quite rare. I'm not sure why, but I typically see, black Manxes, and, just going on to, the group on Facebook that I'm a part of, about Manxes, there are so many black Manxes, and it's kind of crazy. But mostly when Lane was talking about Manxes, he felt that there was, if they were understood as, a variety of Manx, then you could very easily tell the distinguishable traits of them. As I said, all the roundness and the lack of tail, the length of tail even, just that kind of stuff. If you really had an eye for it, you would definitely see how distinguished this kind of cat is. I mean, also I mentioned, its bunny rabbit legs too. Come on. I have not seen many cats with that lift, that length of back legs. But, it took a while for it to really be recognized as a generally accepted cat breed. And, there's so many cat experts during that time period that really thought that there was nothing special about these cats that would enhance its beauty, because, well, they were jerks. That's all I gotta say about that. They were just jerks. But I always kind of found it very interesting that people just did not like this cat. But the really interesting thing is, historically, Manx cats have been, working cats. So they'd be on ships, they'd be in houses and farms, and they would be hunting down, any rodents, anything that would, would be considered a pest. And, yeah, sure, other cats can do that, but these Manx cats are exceptional in this. They are so good at it. I've seen Eisen, work himself, on, I think, like 3 mice now. And he's just, all about it. Like, it's almost terrifying because he toys with it for such a long time. Like, the first time I saw him, attack a bug, it was a very slow process. Like, he was meticulous about playing with it to death. But anyway, there were other things about Manxes that are actually quite really interesting. The mutation that it has, and I mentioned it briefly, but it's just kind of like missing some vertebrae, on their back that prevents it from having that long length of a tail. And that there is something that I read, it was saying that it could be due to the breeding of a rabbit and a Manx, and I'm not really sure what to think about that, but, that's just a theory that some people made. I don't think it's possible, though. But, essentially, this length of tail is based on a riser, a rumpy, a stumpy, I don't want to say but it's basically how they labeled them and distinguished between different Manx cats. Because, again, even if the Manx cat has a tail, which is a little bit rare, they would still have the roundness that the Manx typically has. And I would say that it has probably a history in actually coming to the Americas and also just kind of being spread out in Great Britain. But you can definitely see how Manxes became such a well-known breed, or at least a breed that you could recognize if you saw it from a distance. But hey, that's just my opinion on that. And I mean, I wish that I had more history on Manxes, and apparently there's a lot of books that kind of go into Manxes, and I'll just tell you about one, and it's called A Detailed Account of Manx Cats, and it's written by Sarah Goodwins, and basically it's a book that, gives all these kind of details about Manxes. And what tickles me the most is that it has a pun in the beginning, in the title, and it's a detailed account of Manx cats. So you can think detailed as in, it's giving us a lot of information, and then detailed as in, the cat doesn't have a tail. Ha ha ha. I am an English teacher that loves this kind of stuff, and I have a husband who loves this stuff more than I do. So I'll probably be sharing that with him when he comes home. But, I mean, I wish that I could just fit more of this information into this segment, but we actually have to take a commercial break. And next time, we are going to actually jump into the myths and lore of Manx cats. So it's kind of related to this past segment, but we're getting into the weird stuff. And I just can't wait to tell those stories. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
3, 2, and 1. And we are back from our commercial break, and I figured that, after talking about the history of Manxes and also just kind of a general idea of them being, like dog cats, I figured we could get into some folklore and myths about these little guys, especially to the one that is still sleeping right next to me. So cute. So we get to talk about something that I really love, and again, I just like to let my imagination go, and I figured that I may as well start off with one of the things that I already kind of mentioned, and that is, well, cabbits. Actually, no, they're actually rabbits and cats mating and coming up with this new, fine, brilliant creature. And I mean, that's fine. Scientifically, I think it's wrong, but that's just one little story. One of the more interesting ones is actually of Noah and his ark, and how this cat came in at the last minute and was stopped at the door by Noah. And this cat, after being told that, no, you can't come in, the cat decides to beg and plead with Noah. And after a little bit, because it wasn't working, the cat decided to bargain with Noah. So essentially, what the cat said that he was going to do for Noah was basically go around the ark and take care of any rodents, any unwanted rodents, and, he would be basically working for shelter. So that makes sense, yeah. I don't know if Noah was impatient or kind of grumpy or just negligible, but as the cat was slowly sauntering in, he slammed the door on its tail. Oh my gosh. So that's why, according to this story, this is why the Manx cat does not have a tail. Also another thing that I don't think is scientifically possible. But in addition to that, we also have the story of, the little people, and how this Manx cat would basically be put out during the night so that he can roam around and stuff and be away from the people. And he would find re-entry by impressing the little people in the house. And when I say little people, I'm talking about like the kind of like the gatherers, where they're going around the house and they're doing things or picking up some food or any kind of thing that they would find useful that somebody wouldn't miss. So the cat charmed them and just was acting all beautiful and fantastic, and, well, why not let the cat come back inside? It'll be fine, right? Pretty much fine. I would say, though, that shame on these little creatures for thinking that there was any chance of them possibly surviving this, because cats like small things that move around. But hey, what do I know? So there is the other part where there's also the story about how the cats came from Ponce ship when they first came to the Gulf Coast, and the cats escaped and then started having all little Manx babies and stuff. And this also goes the same for like a sinking ship in England, and then these two cats that don't have tails swimming all the way over to the Isle of Man. So that's where their name comes from, I guess. But all of this, is just kind of trying to explain the history of a cat that doesn't necessarily seem like other cats, which is true. But here's the problem. At least for the first two explanations that they come up with. It's already been scientifically proven, that the lack of tail for a Manx is like a mutation, which means that, if you breed a cat and a rabbit, well, already you can't do that because you can't cross species unless you want a liger. I haven't seen, a liger, but on TV. But I guess it's possible, but I would say, very slim chances of it. And then you look at the Noah story, and, well, that's just simply an injury. Like, if you look at how animals breed, like, they're basically sharing their own DNA code, and, like, even though that cat lost its tail, it's still in its DNA that, hey, I'm supposed to have a cat. So, physically, the cat looked like a Manx, but genetically, it was a full-tailed cat. But who knows, it could have been like one of those rare full-tailed cats that were Manxes, but, that's totally, up for debate, though. Now, it's very frustrating because some people just, come up with some crazy stuff. And I would like to point out that despite the genetic problems going into a cat and a rabbit becoming, parents of a Manx, well, if you look at a Manx close enough, they have some pretty tough-looking back legs. And I've seen Eisen, like, kind of bound around, and it's like he's hopping like a rabbit. It's really, really cute, and I would say find videos of a cat, like, roaming around and just kind of getting startled and running out. Not outside. Preferably not outside. But, just, they still have the balance, even though they're a little bit clumsy at times. But, I mean, just these folklores that I'm sharing with you, it's essentially focusing on their origins. So where did they come from? Why are they so different? And it's just people trying to reach for straws when and answers when it's just something that scientifically happened to them, and they were able to manage continue throughout their lives, and they're still so circly and cute. I want to draw you, Mr. Man, because I could use only circles. But yeah, that's really most of the folklore going around Manxes. It's just, where did they come from? And, I would say that, there's still more stories to be told about Manxes. You actually see a ton of books, telling you what Manxes are, like just nonfiction stories. But there's also the opportunities to start looking at fiction, and, like, one great example of it being in fiction is, well, let's see, The Cat Returns. It's a Studio Ghibli kind of production, and, like, one of the main cat characters is a Manx. Like, he has a partial tail, and it's, it's adorable, and this cat was allegedly the one to, like, completely empty out a river after eating all the fish in it. But that is, kind of a sneak peek at what we're going to be talking about next, because, well, I think that finding literature about a specific cat named Marco, and I think that this might be a really good chance for people to start reading to their kids and, just go with it, right?
Is weird odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea, then the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
And again, we are back, and I really want to talk about books. Good thing I found books that are totally relevant to Manxes. And I think it would be a nice breath of fresh air. We have been talking about cats as dog cats, and let's see, history and folklore, all that kind of stuff. And, well, I just want to know if I can read about them. And, well, very lucky, because I found the Marco series, basically, where they have like a cat that is the main character. It's a children's book, but I will let you know that when I pulled up the page about this, well, it's on Amazon, so you could definitely find it. The first thing I see is F is for fart, and there's a picture of I think a lemur, and it's giving out some really bad gas. So, that is what you find on Amazon for kids and books. So, Marco the Manx is everywhere, it feels like. And it's in, like, Fisherman Cat, what else? Samurai Cat, Alaska Cat, and Castaway Cat. So, just kind of like getting into the little details about this. So, Castaway Cat. So, Marco falls off his owner's sailboat and he swims to a deserted island. And for the first time, he has to fend for himself. And so, he deals with a lot of predators that are, that'll hunt for him. But he manages, because, well, there's a whole other series left for people to read on that. But it makes me think of, well, not a Manx, but a relative's cat who unfortunately was forgotten for a period of time. And this cat used to be very obese. And, like, the owners had to go on a trip, and they expected somebody else to take care of him, and the person forgot. Or, well, I don't even know, I guess I can say forgot. And this poor cat basically lived off, like, mice that he would capture, which is pretty cool. But this was, like, the time where this cat had to also fend for himself without any help whatsoever. So, this cat, just in real life, really needed to lose the weight, and he eventually did when they got back from their trip. But, like, Marco the Manx, I have total trust in him that he would be able to find whatever he wanted, whenever he needed, because, well, it is supposedly in the cat's genes that they're very good working cats who like to catch stuff and, go about and track, all that kind of stuff. So, what I really want to know, and I haven't read this book yet, it's by Joanne Rowe, just in case you guys wanted to look into her. And, well, my questions, like, I guess I've seen owners, riding boats with their pets and stuff, But I kind of like the connection between Marco swimming to a deserted island, and it makes me think of the lore of the Manx cats coming from a sinking ship all the way, and just swimming all the way to the Isle of Man. I see some parallels there, which is pretty cool. And I wonder if Joanne Rowe actually was thinking about that when she wrote this. But hey, I don't know. Now, this book was released October 1, 1989, is what it looks like, at least in paperback. And currently on Amazon, it is like only one left in stock. So if you guys are wanting to read that, definitely check it out. Now, there is also Alaska Cat, and I have no idea what order these go in. So we will see how it all rolls out. So Alaska Cat is basically Marco fishing and the boat sinks off the coast of Sitka, Alaska. And when he manages to reach the shore, he discovers a land of bears and totem poles. And it feels like almost the exact same story of Castaway Cat, essentially. I'm not really sure what to think of that. I guess it's just kind of, different scenarios. What is he going to find? Obviously, Marco is going to have to fend for himself again, and I think that this cat is really getting on the mark here about developing his skills. I would probably hire him in a heartbeat now, since he's had extended periods of time of fending himself and hunting and stuff. But how original that in 2 books it is involving a boat and a cat swimming to shore. I don't know. But this one was published in hardcover August 1, 1990. And, hey, it looks like there's still plenty of you guys to go and pick it up if you'd like on Amazon. Now, the next one. Let's see, Samurai Cat. Now, this seems very special. So, it's the 4th, so it has to be the last one, because there are only 4 books in this. But it's telling me the order. So there is Castaway Cat comes first, then Fisherman Cat, and then Alaska Cat, and now we go to Samurai Cat, where Marco and the cat is in Japan. And it's really bizarre for all this stuff happening to the cat, and I haven't been able to find a really good synopsis of it, but if I know the pattern of Joanne Rowe, the cat was on a boat, and either the boat sank, or he fell off the boat, and then he had to swim to shore, and he ended up in Japan, where he became a national hero. Let's go with that story. But if you want to know the real story, you can always check it out on Amazon. It was published in hardcover May 1st, 1993. So, because it's the 4th of the popular series, it's definitely the most recent one that came out. Now, the one we've all been waiting for, Fisherman Cat. So, Fisherman Cat is on Amazon, written and published in hardcover October 1, 1988. This is another one that you can find on Amazon, of course. And I am not going to let this one get away from me. So, looking at the available material on Amazon and doing frequent Google searches, I cannot find anything that tells me about Fisherman Cat. And I guess we can make some assumptions, just like in Samurai Cat. And I guess it is that this cat managed to fall off the boat and find its way to some place where it could go fishing. even more. And it used fishing to help it survive from starving. And that could very well be the possibility, especially when you look at the history of the book series. I know it's for kids, but wouldn't kids get kind of bored of that? Hey, I don't even know. But it sounds like an interesting cat story. I can imagine, I just don't understand why people would bring their cats on a boat. That's a major thing for me. Cats don't generally like water, and their center of gravity is kind of like messed up, and they'd probably be sad and miserable unless this cat really loved being in water. I guess it makes sense because like a lot of Manx cats came from, ships that needed a pest controller, I guess is what you call it. But hey, whatever works for Joanne Rowe. She sold those books, but there are so few that you can find now. I saw one on eBay. There's only a few books left in the other series for them, and I just kind of want to read it now. Maybe I can find it in a local library, but I kind of doubt it. These seem to be very elusive at this point. But, well, I don't want to end on this note, but we're going to kind of talk about incontinence in cats, if that makes you feel like you want to listen to this. But there is a huge but to it. And that's my cat's butt. No. Think diapers and cats. And then relax. So we will be back after this commercial break.
The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast, the show that gives you advice on everything travel. We explore places you've always wanted to go, as well as giving tips for traveling in those places. We'll give you advice on the best sites for travel tips, information, and discounts. Join us as we travel the world, explore cultures, and meet new people. The Golden State Media Concepts Travel Podcast has got you covered. Download the GSMC Travel Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome. I guess we're back from our break. We've been talking a lot about Manxes, and I hope that maybe I'm convincing you of actually getting a Manx yourself, though, who knows, you might not find many Manxes in, like, the shelters, totally dependent upon, like, your area, honestly. But, we talked about, the history, their personality, their representation in books, and, myths and folklore based on them. But now, let's talk about poop. And I'm sorry, but this is totally something that is natural with, anything. Remember, what's that book called? Oh, yeah, it's called Everybody Poops. So keep that in mind. Your dog, your cat, your pet fish poops. Every single one of them. So you shouldn't hold it against your little buddy when, they have something called Manx syndrome. And just kind of go over this. Like, Manx syndrome happens when a part of your cat's vertebrae is, too far back, basically. Like, maybe they don't have enough, they didn't develop it well enough. And this causes like some serious bowel problems and urinary problems because, well, I would imagine there's not really enough support going on up there. But it kind of leads to people either being really grossed out or, and eventually dealing with it. Or these poor guys might be sent back to, the Humane Society or the animal shelter, which is, very unfortunate because, as you can tell, Manxes are probably the best cats to have ever, especially if you are a dog person. This cat will make you want to be a cat person. But the major thing that you have to be ready for is the nasty stuff when it comes to your pets. You can't abandon them if they do something nasty. And, it's part of their health. I mean, probably one of the most rewarding things about having a pet that has some sort of disability, well, it's being able to see them succeed no matter what, even despite their disabilities. And I would say that for people that are in a Manx fan club, like myself, well, you do get to see different solutions. And one of those solutions that probably is most common is getting your cat to wear a diaper. Because, well, why not? Well, you don't want all that poop on the floor, right? And it's not the pretty poop, it's the really gross poop. As if poop is pretty. So, yeah, there are actually, you can use like regular diapers that you would use for babies and toddlers, people, kids that are still working to be potty trained, or you can use like fabric kinds that have, that's maybe a little more durable. But I will say I have like a bias against like actual diapers because, well, I had a dog a long time ago when I was a kid that had to wear diapers for a period of time, and just I came out of my room one day and there was just diaper like ripped up all over the place, and it was just disgusting. Now, would you want your cat who has incontinence issues to poop in their diaper and then rip it up? That's a gross thing to clean up, okay? So I would probably go for fabric, just because it seems like, a little bit easier to manage, and, well, I mean, you'll have to do a lot of cleaning, but it's much better than cleaning up nasty poop on your floor. But hey, there's also the other option of, well, maybe you can run a business and you make like those special kinds of diapers for your cats or for your pets maybe, and that would be totally cool. You could probably make money out of it. So, well, you know what? So if you get this idea and you take this idea, I'm totally fine with it. It's useful, and hey, I can't sew. That was a gift that was never given to me. Unfortunately, my sister can sew, my mom can sew, and her mom, when she was alive, could sew, like, amazing stuff. So, it just did not pass on to me very well. I didn't have the patience. But, I mean, having that ability to even make diapers for people and, charge them at a reasonable cost, like, that's totally cool with me. It's not like you stole my idea. It's not like I could have gone through with my idea anyway. But, going into, like, more about these beautiful little cats, and also, just other pets that have problems, like, probably one of the best feelings in the world is seeing them succeed. So, or just adapting. I've seen, like, little, little dodo videos that have, like, cats doing, well, all animals doing amazing things. So, like, a cat that has, like, two, their back legs, like, splayed and they can't do it, can't really move their legs, and just succeeding at, like, climbing, like, a shelf. It's amazing. And I don't know, like, what exactly the incontinence prevents these cats from doing, but I imagine I'd be quite surprised. I really do think so. But we just have to talk about this one thing. Cats are so cute in diapers, especially Manx cats, because they're so round and baby-like, and, well, we call our cat Baby Cat for short. But, they look like little babies, and they run around, and, it's very, very cute. And I would say that just being able to choose what kinds of diapers they can wear is absolutely perfect. I mean, there could be ones with stars on them, one with cats on them. It doesn't really matter because, well, your cat's probably not going to care. It's all for you in that sense. Just make sure your cat has a diaper because you don't want to ruin your furniture, or you don't want them to be ruining your furniture. So now, this kind of means that you kind of have your own baby in this case, as I said, baby cat, because you're going to have to change those diapers, and you're going to have to be very, very focused on that, because I guarantee you a dirty cat does not like anything at all, and they will desperately try to clean themselves. So this might require you actually giving your cat a bath, which is a horrible experience in our situation. Eisen does not like baths; he'll freak out. And there's also there's probably some medication that they have to take, which can also be a very horrible experience. Like for us and Eisen, because Eisen hates pills. He will actually foam at the mouth to try to make it go away. So, sure, Eisen is difficult when it comes to his health care, but, there is plenty of ways to be persuasive. But when it comes to your cat, doing something that they don't want to do. And, sorry, I'm just here sitting and petting this cat, and he's just not moving. He's just breathing. And I try to imagine a diaper on him. Or at least a diaper on him when he was at 18 pounds or something. And that's just a funny sight for me. And I kind of want to get him a diaper now. Is that evil of me? Well, either way, we are going to be going on another break, our final break, and we are going to be talking about something quite interesting. And remember in the first episode that I got to talk to you guys, well, I was talking about raccoons and raccoon cafes, right? Well, the origin of all those types of cafes, those animal cafes, is the cat cafe, from what I understand. And we actually have one that is very close to where we live. And I've been there 2 times. And I must go back. And I'll probably have to go with, no, my husband won't want to go because he doesn't want Eisen to be jealous. But either way, it's, a good experience, and I really want to tell you guys about this because, well, you should go to different cat cafes and see what they have to offer. But for now, I am going to get you guys on a commercial break, and I will talk to you in a bit.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
We are back from our final break, and while I've been waiting. I've mostly been petting on Eisen just to give him some love, because he doesn't like leaving his bachelor pad very often. So this is a nice time to, see and cuddle with him. But, he's also enjoyed just listening to me talk about Manxes, all kinds of topics about them, by the way. And, well, he will probably be a little jealous now because I'm going to be talking about a cat cafe called 9 Lives Cat Cafe near where I live. And he'll probably hate the idea of me hanging out with other cats aside from him. But, he's a jealous boy. He'll get over it, though. He's very fast to forgive. Now, I went to this cat cafe 2 times already. And I absolutely adore it. On one side, like in the first half of the building, there's basically a little coffee area where you can get your drinks and, any pastries. And a lot of it's vegan, which, I guess that's totally, the scene that cat cafes kind of go into. But on the other side of the building, they're basically, it's like one big room divided into two, by just a single wall that's, that has all these windows to watch the cats. But, on one half we had the cafe, on the other half we had the cats. And to see those cats, you would need to, go and schedule a time with, online or with the barista, and it would be 30 minutes to an hour. And honestly, I really loved it whenever I went, because, it really depends on the time of day that you go, because, during the middle of the day, they're not really as active because, they're sleepy, they're taking their cat naps, but, later on in the day or in the morning, they are just very active. And all of these cats actually are available for adoption, and they usually cycle the cats because they're all coming from the Humane Society. And I remember both times that I went there, I just saw a cat that I really liked, but I kept on thinking, Eisen is a 1-cat household. He cannot handle it. But for a lot of other instances for me, just watching some of my friends interact with the cats, it's you want this cat. You definitely want this cat. And I think that is actually a really good idea that they have this partnership with the Humane Society. And just, the coffee area is donating a good portion to the Humane Society so that they can, continue to support their animals and, wash, feed, and make different kinds of events happen for adoption. And I think that for most people, they don't realize that those cats are adoptable until they start, because you usually see them walking around in the front because there's a big window in the front for them to just kind of stare out of. And, they just kind of look like they're there for props, but yeah, pets as props, whatever. But they think that they're just kind of there. But the reality is, the second you walk into that cat room, well, one, if you have bad allergies, you're gonna really feel it. But two, a huge thing is that you have to use hand sanitizer, and, you're basically treating the cats as if, they are in a sterile environment for them. And, well, when you walk in, you see different signs that talk about each of the cats, giving their personality and their history, all that kind of stuff. And that's when you realize, oh, these cats are adoptable. And again, I think it's a really cool thing of what the cafe is doing right now. And hey, I have not been there in a while, and actually it's temporarily closed because of the pandemic, which, honestly, I think I need some more cat energy in my life. Eisen is always, pretty big and hulking, and he's always running away because he thinks that we're going to give him a pill. So I wouldn't say I would get another cat, but I would say that there needs to be more cats in my life. But the major problem is that I do have an allergy and I have to take Benadryl. For Eisen, it's different because, from what I understand, Manxes might be hypoallergenic, but I don't know. And I could always look that up later and let you guys know. But I will say that I think it's much better than the Raccoon Cafe that I saw on that video that I was talking about in the first episode. And for the Raccoon Cafe, remember, they were all over the place. They were free to go wherever they wanted. Well, for this cat cafe, again, they had their own separate room, a place where they didn't have to get stressed out or stress out the customers, and so they wouldn't get into the coffee and, the chocolate that comes with baked goods and stuff. So I feel like this is a better arrangement compared to that Raccoon Cafe in South Korea. Who knows, they've probably changed their rules and, have made things a bit more raccoon friendly in their own room, in their own space. Because again, all of our animals need a space of their own. If they're a wild animal like a raccoon, well, they definitely need a space of their own, and you need to be very conscientious about how are you going to make this space, right for them. So, for me, if I had the opportunity to, completely redo that Raccoon Cafe, I would definitely start off having a walled off area where you can watch the raccoons do what they do, just like this cat cafe, and then have a place where the people can enter, make scheduled times to, see these raccoons. I mean, it works so well with the cat cafe, and I can't imagine another way of doing it, but who knows, there might be another more efficient way. But it's great having this organization that also, again, partners with just a nonprofit that, needs help. And we always need to keep in mind that, hey, you adopt, don't shop, because there are plenty of animals, especially cats, in the Humane Society, also in other shelters too. So when you go to this place and you find one that you really like, I would definitely recommend, checking it out, seeing more about this cat, because I guarantee they will probably have some information about them. But I would say go to these cat cafes, or maybe there are dog cafes too now. I need to look that up. And, take the opportunity to make friends, and maybe you'll have someone come home with you, a forever home. The someone being the dog or the cat. Maybe even a parakeet. A parrot? Definitely not raccoons, though. I would hope that nobody is going to be able to adopt a raccoon. Because, again, raccoons are jerks. So more about this cat cafe. They actually had, cat-themed drinks, which was so cool. And also cat-themed baked goods for the customers and stuff. But just all those things can come in to the cat room, but you can't obviously feed the cats that stuff. And you need to be careful about where you put your coffee, where you put your food, and also making sure that the cat doesn't fall asleep on your food, because at that point you can't really disturb the cat, because those are the rules. You don't disturb a sleeping cat, essentially. And that totally makes sense. You don't know what this cat is going to be like. They have different personalities. You can read about them, but it's different than actually experiencing the cat attitude. But I would say probably when we are free of this lockdown, I'm probably going to go to this cat cafe. Maybe not the first thing I do, but definitely one of the things I will be doing. So maybe I can, start making a list, I guess. That'll be exciting. Definitely one thing is taking Reggie and Cookie to a dog park, which, will take a little bit of time because we need to get all their records together. And anyway, dog parks are actually far more complicated, come to think of it. But, that's a conversation for another day. And, I think that this is a great way to kind of end this episode. Definitely go to a cat cafe, dog cafe, if there is one, and just be with those animals. And maybe eventually adopt. Either way, I just want to say thank you for listening to the GSMC Pets podcast, which was brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. Again, I always love reviews. Please give me a review. I love it. And, again, that really helps us. And it helps me. So, again, you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all wonderful things that you can do for us. And, well, you can also, one final thing that is beautiful for us, please have a good night, and thank you very much.
You've been listening to the GSMC Pets Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.